This card don't read so good. Wake up. This card in the set. What the hell is this? Best in show. All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to the Final Fantasy Complete Set Review. How's it going, folks? My name is Jim Davis, pro Magic player, commentator, and full-time content creator. I'll be your guide to every single card in the entire set for Constructed and Limited. So you're playing Standard, you're drafting, playing in Arena, playing in Paper. I got you covered, all right? We're going over every single card of the set. We did White. That's its own section. We're doing Blue in this section. Any sections you missed would be on YouTube. I'm breaking this up over 2 days on Twitch. And YouTube folks, you'll see a video every few hours going up. So make sure you do that. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. A lot of work goes into a set review, and your support makes that possible. So please support the content. Comment, like, follow, subscribe. Do all the usual stuff. And every video, too. Hit a like on every time, all right? So appreciate that so much. So we're going over all cards. Final Fantasy. Full disclosure, I don't know anything about Final Fantasy, honestly. But know a little bit about Magic, so we're going to go off of that. Remind you all real fast that Bronze to Mythic is starting a little bit late this time around. Sunday, June 15th. It'll be an all-day stream of Bronze to Mythic. I'm going to be away doing some consulting work, actually, at Riot for Riftbound, their new card game, which is pretty cool. So can't say any more than that. That's really, really cool. And let's get to our set review. Let's give out our awards and do all of our good stuff. We are doing Blue. We are starting out with a bang here. We got Astrologian's Planisphere.
You're saying it wrong.
Sleeper card. This card is awesome. So, 2-mana equipment has Job Select. And as of course, Job Select simply means that it comes with a attached creature. Very, very important for these equipments to be playable is putting them with a creature. So you're not stuck with an equipment, nothing to do with it. Really, really awesome. And the ability of this card is, equipped creature is a wizard and has whenever you cast a non-creature spell and whenever you draw your third card each turn, put a counter on this creature. That is good. So this is effectively a 1/1 prowess, permanent prowess for 2 that also can get counters for third card draw. So I go opt, boom. Now it's a third card, counter, and then double counter. Really, really powerful. And it has equipped for 2. So any future creature can don this thing pretty easily. This card's kind of nice, honestly. Super prowess on a 2-drop. It's an equipment. Constructed, I think it's got a chance, hence why it's a sleeper card. In Limited, this card is phenomenal. I'm sorry, hold on. Time out. Chat is telling me that it is and not or. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell and whenever, I'm pretty sure it's either. It's like whenever you do this or whenever you do that. Because you can't do both at the same time, right? Judge! Big time boo birds for chat here trying to screw up my set reviews, all right? Never listen to chat, folks. That's advice for life. So it is either or. So non-creature spell or drawing your third card. We got counters going all over the place, which is great. Cheap, efficient. It's an artifact. Great limited card. Really, really cool stuff. Constructed, definitely an outside shot. You know, it's not quite Corey Steelcutter, but this card is pretty nice. So cool stuff. Our sleeper card for Blue right off the bat is this card right here. Next up is Cargo Ship. 2-mana for a vehicle, 2/3 flying vigilance. Taps to add a colorless, but only for artifact spells or abilities. And crew 1. So, at face value, it looks like a creature. It's a mana rock, right? 2-mana mana rock for artifacts. If your deck is all artifacts, that's pretty cool. And then if you can you get some vehicle stuff going on here, not bad either. This is more of a limited card than anything else. I don't think that you can afford a mana rock that only taps for artifacts in Constructed. We already have that card in white, and it doesn't see too much play. So more of a limited card. If you are the artifact draft deck, this card seems pretty good. Adding mana, a little bit of attacking. Vigilance is nice too. Plays all tokens. So cool little card. I think this card is not particularly exciting. It is definitely a playable card in the right draft deck, but otherwise not too much. Combat Tutorial. How far Divination has fallen. 2-mana for a sorcery. Draw 2, then put a counter on up to 1 target creature you control. Now, it's important to note this card says target player draws 2, not just draw 2. So your opponent cannot fizzle this if they kill the creature in response. That would make this card much, much worse. But draw 2 cards and put a counter on is a pretty good limited card, all things considered. You know, the amount of draw 2 isn't really good enough by itself in limited these days, but I think that counter is pretty nice. Constructed, obviously, we have stock up, so that's not even a consideration. But for limited, if you want to cast spells for prowess and whatever else, add some counters on things, this card's pretty cool. You know, not high pick or anything like that, but card seems nice. It's a cool little card. Dragoon's Wyvern. Listen, it's not really that complicated when it comes to limited. If there's a 3-mana flying creature that makes it 1/1, it's going to be very good. This card has been, the best common in its color basically every time it's been printed in the last, 5 or 6 years. It is only a 2/1 rather than a 2/2, which is pretty relevant. There are a lot of X1s in this format, but still a phenomenal card, right? We got 2 bodies here. If you're going wide, this card's phenomenal. The flyer can trade off, a token can trade off, sacrifice synergies, just a whole multitude of things you can do here. And plays well with the white go wide cards and kind of an aggressive strategy. It's kind of interesting where like the blue-white theme in this set in limited is artifacts. This is not an artifact, but does play well with the go wide white cards. So it could be like an archetype in and of its own, which is kind of cool. And that sort of flexibility among archetypes is really cool and makes for a good draft format. So card's a great draft card. There's not much to say here. Seen this card a bunch of times. It's always good. That's your Bombin Common for blue Dragoon's Wyvern. Don't play it instructed. Dreams of Laguna is next. 2 mana for an instant. Surveil 1, then draw a card. Has flashback for 4. So think twice. Not really. Surveil 1, draw a card is definitely not worth 2 mana. And then flashback for 4. If it's like had like, when you flash this back, Surveil 4 or something like that, maybe. But for the most part, this kind of eh. This is an okay limited enabler because there are cards in a set that care about casting non-creature cards for 4 more mana. So the flashback here is some synergy, which is kind of cool. A little spell matters thing happening as well. But for the most part, this card is pretty mediocre. So I have a fringe limited card and not much more. Edgar, King of Figaro. And this card's nice. 6 mana for a 4/5. ETB, draw a card for each artifact you control.
Keep the change, you filthy
That's a lot.
animal.
All right, that could be a lot of cards you constructed. And that being said, 6 mana is a lot. That's definitely a lot of mana. Also has a 2-headed coin ability. First time you flip a coin, whatever. Some flip stuff happens. Basically completely and totally irrelevant for any normal sane human being. But the important part here is 6 mana, 4/5, draw 5 cards. Is that good enough for constructed? Probably not. There is some good artifact ramp, but I would say outside shot of constructed. But in limited, this card's a house. Just 4/5, draw 4 cards and you play it. That's a banger kind of card. And yeah, pretty simple card, honestly. Not a very complicated text box. Cool stuff. Eject is next. We have a 4 mana instant. Can't be countered, so no ward. That's the important part there. Bounce a non-land permanent to its owner's hand and draw a card. So 4 mana repulse. Kind of funny here how this is almost better than repulse in this set because, again, there are a lot of things that trigger off of spending 4 or more mana on a non-creature spell. So that does, matter in this set. Context matters. Pretty good card. It is certainly clunky, but a cantrip bounce spell is totally cool. It's any permanent. The card's nice. Cool card. Seems to be a sad story moment. I don't know anything about it, so don't ask me. But yeah, cool limited card. They'll play better than it looks, I think. Yeah. Aether is next. 4 mana for an artifact. Tap this and exile it to add a blue. Whenever you cast next instant or sorcery spell of this turn, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. I don't think 4 mana is good enough for this kind of effect. If it was like a permanent mana rock that like allowed you to like remove a counter and do this once, so it's only a 1-shot deal, but stayed around as a mana rock, sure, I can maybe buy that, but 4 mana to do nothing and then, can maybe copy your next spell is pretty damn bad. So not very exciting. Could you copy some cool stuff? Sure. More of a commander, dream big kind of card than anything else. Gogo, Master of Mimicry. 3 mana for a 2/4 mythic legendary wizard. XX tap. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copies, and this ability can't be copied and X can't be 0. Mana abilities cannot be targeted because they're not actually abilities that use a stack. This is a wild card. Obviously a commander card. You can do some crazy commander things with this card, but you can copy planeswalker abilities on this. You can copy a fetch land. Imagine you just crack an Evolving Wilds and activate this for 4 and copy it twice. So there's a lot you can do with this card, and that 2/4 body is pretty cool. It doesn't die to cut down, doesn't die to lightning strike, it doesn't die to torch tower. So I think this card is you know, a card that could have like an outside shot. It is durable enough where it seems reasonable to be able to untap with it, and it does have some pretty high potential. The kind of card where it's really, really hard to parse without looking at literally every activated ability in the entire format, which is a lot. But this card's pretty good. Great limited card, I think. Biggest thing here, of course, is your Saga abilities in limited, where you can copy the Saga abilities, get more multiple abilities off that. So this card's really cool. Really, really powerful card. Really, really fun card. Really, really open-ended card. But I think this card's going to be good and limited, have a chance at constructed, and could do some crazy stuff when all is said and done. Ice Flan. This is our blue land cycler. And these land cyclers are, for the most part, quite bad, like they have been historically for the last few sets. 6 mana for a 5/4 Bergstrider, EDB tap a thing and stun it. Island cycling 2. 6 mana for a 5/4 Bergstrider is pretty mopey. Again, double blue, so it does not facilitate a splash, which is a huge problem with these land cyclers. Yeah, pretty mediocre. Would not want this card by deck most of the time. You know,
Still a piece of garbage.
Ice Magic. This is a tiered spell in blue. These are spells where you can choose basically a mode on it. 2 mana for an unsummon. 4 mana for a top-bottom bounce spell. 6 mana for a Vindicate, basically. You shuffle the creature into their library. Not bad, but not great. You know, 4 mana for a top or bottom spell is the kind of the gold standard and limited, but it's not very exciting either. So having some modality here alongside being a 2 mana bounce spell, which is not very good, but will occasionally be good. Or 8 mana Vindicate is, you know, is okay. It does help trigger the spend 4 or 8 mana effects. But yeah, overall, I think it's just a middling limited card, nothing more. Illmeg Pixie, 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer, whenever it attacks Surveil 1. This is a really good card. You know, great limited card. 2/1 flyer with upside for 2 is great. Constructed, probably not. There are some payoffs for surveilling him a set. More on that later. But, you know, there's some fairy stuff from Eldraine too, but you just can't play a 2/1 flyer for 2. It doesn't do some serious stuff. So, kind of You know, not very good for constructed, but great limited card. Just good nuts and bolts card. Jill, Shiva's Dominant. 3 mana for a 2/2 human noble warrior. ETB return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So a little mana war action, which has always been, you know, okay. Then you have 5 mana to exile and flip it. So again, one of these flip legends. And the backside is Shiva, Warden of Ice. Again, very, very important to look at these saga creatures as temporary assets and to note how many times they can attack. So Chapter 1 just came into play, can't attack. Chapter 2, it can attack. Chapter 3, it goes away, so it can't attack. So this card can only get 1 attack in, but it is a 4/5 blocker, which is pretty important. Makes things unblockable. And then Cold Snap will tap all your opponent's lands. And then most importantly, bring it back into a creature so it will not die. It just comes back face up and comes back as the 2/2, which again bounces a thing. So this is going to be a phenomenal limited card, like almost all of these legends are. Constructed, probably not. The front side of a 2/2 for 3 bouncing a thing is not really good enough. And then 5 mana at sorcery speed to transform us is not good enough for limited either. So more of a limited card. Going to be a really, really good one. Really fun card. But overall, constructed, not really there. Warden of Ice. Louisoix's Sacrifice. 1 blue instant. This will cost to cast a spell. Sacrifice a legendary creature. Holy moly. That's a cost. Or pay 2. This is counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or non-creature spell. So we have Stifle Negate in 1 card, which looks extremely appealing for 1 mana, until you realize that sacrificing a legendary creature is a monumental cost. That being said, you know, cheap counter spells can have a place. You know, I can see this card seeing play in Modern if there's like an Emery, Tamio, whatever deck that really wants to have a cheap Stifle/Negate. Maybe, you know, so you shouldn't discount cards that are this cheap completely. But this card is pretty mediocre overall. Yeah, you know. Don't play it in your draft deck either. The Lunar Whale. Play this card in your draft deck. This thing is crazy.
Good lord.
4 mana for a 3/5 flying vehicle, crew 1. That magical crew 1 cost. You can always look at your top card, and as long as it's attacked this turn, you have Future Sight in play. You may play the top card of your library over and over and over and over again, which is a really powerful effect. Play a land, play a spell, play a spell, play a spell. And the sizing here is great. 3/5 flying for 4. Crew 1 is super doable. This is a bonkers limited card. An absolute slam dunk bomb. Constructed probably doesn't quite get there, unfortunately. So it's a cool card, but but for limited, really, really cool stuff. Magic Damper. 1 mana for an instant. Hexproof +1/+1 untap. It's just shore up, which is a fine card that we know what it does. Cool art, but just shore up. Matoya, Archon Elder. Oh boy. This card is something. 3 mana for a 1/4. Whenever you scry or surveil, draw a card. Note, this is not instead. This is not a replacement. You get to scry or surveil and then draw a card. So if the surveil lands and the scry lands did not exist, this award would not be happening. But they do, and this is pretty crazy, right? So more of a 4-drop, I think. Play it on turn 4, play a surveil land, draw a card, and from that point on, you are up pretty good. You are good in a good place to be. Even when the surveil lands rotate, we'll still have the scry lands, which are in foundations, and then there are other ways to scry and surveil, opt, other various effects. I think on lands alone, this card is pretty cool. But when you get opt involved in cards like that, this is pretty wild. So this card is pretty sweet. This is the kind of card that's not that hard to work into things. And there are just so many ways to scry and surveil in modern day Magic. It's a card that will get better as more scry cards are printed. Not sure where it goes exactly, but this is a really, really powerful card. Excellent card. Amusingly not as good in limited because there aren't as many scry and surveil effects. But if you ever draw 1 card off this limited, you're pretty happy, and 2 cards is great. So really, really cool stuff. Is a warlock, doesn't die to shoot the sheriff, doesn't die to torch tower. So durable enough. Still has the cut down. The cut down won't be around for too long. But yeah, card's awesome. Best in show for blue. I think this card's really, really cool. Not a wizard, unfortunately. That would be pretty cool for modern, but yeah, cool stuff. Next up is Memories Returning. As much as I hate to say it, it's going to get the Trap Award. Such a cool design, too, but we'll get to it. 4 mana for a sorcery. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You put 1 in your hand, opponent put 1 in the bottom. You put 1 in your hand, opponent puts 1 in the bottom. You put 1 in your hand. So this is always 4 mana, draw 3 cards, and get the 1 card you really want out of the 5. That's actually really, really good. And I do like this card a lot. The problem is it's being printed into the same format as Stock Up, which is just tough. It's just really, really tough to be in that spot. And I just don't see a world where you play this card over Stock Up, and the cards are going to be legal basically the exact same time forever, which is really difficult. And 4 mana these days is a lot more than 3. Tapping out for a card draw spell on turn 4 in Standard is pretty tough. It is pretty tough. So at sorcery speed, this card is, I'm afraid, just not good enough. This card would be bonkers as an instant. I think it'd be really, really good as an instant. At sorcery speed, the card is good. I do like this card a lot, but the Stock Up comparison is just too difficult. It's a card that will never get out of Stock Up Shadow, which is why it's my trap card for blue in the set. That being said, it is a great limited card. Really, really good limited card. So yeah, I'm sad about this. I feel like the Factor Fiction style cards always get me in these set reviews, but this one I'm going to pull a trigger on, trap card. I'm sad, but it is what it is. The Prima Vista is next. 5 mana for a 5/3 flying vehicle. If you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it, there's that effect. This becomes a creature until end of turn. Also has crew 2. 5 mana for a vehicle that's not a creature to start is a pretty tough sell in limited. That's a lot of mana to spend to not have a thing. It also doesn't block very well either. So I think if you're like a control deck that really needs a win condition, this card can do that for you. But this card is pretty underwhelming. Not a great limited card. Unplayable constructed. I think this card is it's kind of stinky. Qiqirn Merchant, I suppose. 2 mana for a 1/4 Beast Citizen. 1 tap to loot. 7 tap this. Draw 3 cards. Has affinity for towns. Towns is a land type we'll see a little bit later. This card's nice. I actually like this card. This is a cool common. The body is fine defensively. You know, looters are kind of cool. It's kind of weird because looting doesn't play very well into the 7 mana ability, where you'll be discarding extra lands, therefore not have the extra mana to sack this thing and draw 3. But the flexibility is there, and it's really, really cool. And this thing's cool, honestly. I like this card, you know. The town thing's pretty cool. Looting's fine enough. I think if you're a controlling blue deck, this card's going to play very well for you. And just a fine limited card. Cool stuff. Quistis Trepe? This...
You're saying it wrong.
Yeah, I know. I'm bombing this one, all right? I get it. I'm sorry. 3 mana for a 2/2 with blue magic. When it enters, cast an instant or sorcery card from any graveyard, and mana of any color can be spent to cast that spell, and then exile it. This is a Snapcaster Mage for both graveyards. Really good and limited, right? Giving yourself the ability to look at your spells and your opponent's spells means you'll always have a good target. And constructed, too clunky, right? A sorcery speed 2/2 for 3 is kind of meh. That's not very exciting. Great limited card, really, really fun, but, you know, constructed, just not quite. It's not quite Snapcaster Mage. Realms Sketching, 4 mana for sorcery, just token copy of a artifact, creature, or land. So, kind of a clone effect it's cool, you know. Copying a land to ramp in blue is kind of cool. No Saffron Olive is very high on this card. Copying the best creature in play is pretty cool, or artifact. You know, it's similar to Clever Impersonator, which is just like a creature version of this. It can hit anything. This makes a token. It's a sorcery, so I guess, you know, some prowess energy there or whatever. But just cool. Just a cool card. You know, I think this card is not outlandish or anything like that. We've seen cards like this many, many times. But yeah, it's a cool card. Retrieve the Esper. 4 mana for a sorcery. Make a 3/3 robot warrior artifact token. Then if this card was flashed back, put 2 counters on that token. So this is kind of like Call the Herd, right? Call the Herd, anyone?
Pointless nostalgia.
No, Call the Herd, no one. Where the first casting is not amazing. It's a Hill Giant, but it is an artifact. It's also a 4 mana spell for your 4 mana spell things. And then you flash it back and make it 5/5. That's pretty good too. So you trade off your 3/3, you trade down on it, whatever. And then later on you get a 5/5. That's cool, you know? So kind of like this card. I think this card does a lot of things right in that it is a dual synergy card. It is a card, a cat common for your draft deck that works well in the artifact deck. It also works well in the cast 4 mana non-creature spell deck. So cards that can do 2 things like that are pretty sweet. Probably not a high pick or anything like that, but it's a good nuts and bolts draft card. Rook Turret. 4 mana for a 3/3 flying artifact. Whenever another artifact ETBs, you may loot. Card's great. If you're playing an artifact deck, this card's awesome. The body is good enough. Looting is phenomenal and limited. It's an artifact for synergies. And it's also uncapped. You can just keep playing artifacts and looting and looting and looting. Not an extremely high pick. A card that you probably will cut occasionally if you have a lot of 4s, but good rock solid draft card. Sage's Nouliths, 2 mana for an artifact equipment, job select. So it comes in with a hero token already on it. Creature gets +7 or so, and as whenever this creature attacks, untap target attacking creature, and as a cleric. So kind of a weird, like, 2/1 for 2 that can, like, untap your attackers for, like, pseudo-vigilance. Filler. Just a filler card. Problem with this card is that it's an equipment, and it's not red or white. It does not fit into that deck. It can fit into the artifact deck, but the abilities are here so irrelevant, and a 2/1 is really, really meh. So, filler limited card, not very good. Sahagin. 2 mana for a 1/3 whenever you cast a non-creature spell. If at least 4 or more mana was spent to cast it, put a counter on this and it can't be blocked. This card's pretty nice. So we often see this like 1/3 for 2, that if you do something, you get a little bit of buff and unblockable. The fact that this buff is permanent is huge. Once you cast that first spell and make it a 2/4, you're getting your money's worth. And if it gets up to be a 3/5, that's awesome. Really solid little card. Obviously for a deck that you are going to want to be playing 4 mana spells over and over again if possible. It isn't easy to do, but there's a solid 2-drop in that deck, kind of like the late pick you'll get that no one else wants. It's good in your deck. Don't take it early, but very solid limited card. Scorpion Sentinel, the exact same card for the artifact deck. 2 mana for a 1/4. It's an artifact, and as long as you control 7 or more lands, it's a 4/4. A little worse, that 7 or more lands is a lot, But if you're an artifact synergy deck that wants to just put artifacts in play and kind of stay alive and extend the game, a 1/4 body for 2 is fine. There are a lot of X1s in this format, and the 1/4 blocks pretty well. It's a robot. It's an artifact for your artifact stuff. And then the blue-green theme in this set is towns. It's ramping, putting lands into play. So getting 7 lands is not crazy either. There's just a good, solid nuts and bolt defender. You know, don't put this in your blue-red deck or whatever. But if you're playing artifacts, you're playing land stuff. Cool. Sidequest. This is the blue Sidequest card collection. 4-mana enchantment, ETB, draw 3, discard 2, which is okay. It's not a great rate, but okay. End step, if you have 8 or more cards in your graveyard, transform this into Magic card. 4 for flying vehicle, crew 1. So, not a bad stat line. I think this card is merely okay. 4 mana to draw 3, discard 2 is pretty piss poor. That's an effect that just costs 3 in limited, and even then isn't that good. And at 4 mana, it's pretty sketchy. So it is a 4 mana non-creature spell for those kind of effects. But I think overall this is a pretty poor card, unplayable, constructed, and not very good limited either. I think this one's kind of meh. Sleep Magic, 1 mana for an aura, EDB tap enchanted creature, does it untap, and then whenever the enchanted creature is dealt damage, sacrifice this aura. So this card's great. This card's really good. As far as like pure blue removal goes for combat-oriented creatures, this is great. Tap that Screaming Nemesis, get it out of here. It is cheap, it is effective, it is hard to break. If your opponent is playing red and they want to like burst lightning the wrong creature just to free it, that can happen. But most of the time, it's pretty hard to deal damage to tap creatures. Now, it does not turn off abilities. That is very notable. You're correct. This is not very good on a Dark Confidant. But as far as just like a defensive blue spell, I mean, that's just a fine rate for 1 mana. We see cards like Unable to Scream seeing play. I think this card compares favorably to that if you're just trying to stay alive. You know, if they go turn 1, Heartfire Hero or whatever, and you play this on it, that's not bad. That's not a bad place to be. So, pretty cool card. I think better than Unable to Scream in a lot of scenarios, and just very cheap and efficient. This card's great. Stolen Uniform. This card's cheap and not great. 1 mana instant. Choose a creature you control and target equipment. Gain control of that equipment till end of turn. Put it on the creature. And then when you lose control of the equipment, if it's attached to your creature you control, unattach it. So basically this is a 1 blue, steal their equipment, put it on your thing, and then give it back to them. That's not very good. I can see boarding this in against like the artifact, the Boros equipment deck in limited, where if you can like, orchestrate some sort of like blowout in combat, they send mana to equip it, it falls off, yada, yada, yada. But really limited scope. You can use it on your own creatures, so hammer time kind of things could happen here too. That is, it's not nothing for sure. Cigar to Zaid seeing play and so on and so forth. But yeah, pretty fringe card. Stuck in a Summoner's Sanctum. 2 mana for enchantment, flash, EDB, tap a thing, lock it down, no abilities. See this card all the time in limited. It does have flash, makes it pretty good. Just good limited blue removal spell. Nothing more. Summon Leviathan. We get to the blue summons. These are creatures that are also sagas. They are temporary creatures. Again, please evaluate them based on how many times they can attack. So, 6 mana for a 6/6, EDB. Bounce everything from play to hand. It's not a Kraken, Leviathan, Merfolk, Octopus, or Serpent. That's going to be most creatures most of the time. And then chapter 2 and 3 is whenever one of those types attacks, draw a card. So this can attack once and draw a card. Then on chapter 3, it just goes away. As once again, you're unlikely to have these types in play. In limited, this card's great, right? There's just a bounce everything, have a 6/6, deal 6, draw a card. Constructed, we need more than that from 6 mana, I think, so not really good enough, but great limited bomb, really cool card. Just cool. Summon Shiva, 5 mana for a uncommon saga creature. This has Heavenly Strike for chapter 1 and 2, tap and stun. Chapter 3 is draw a card for each tap creature, which will be at least 1. It's also a 4/5. This card's pretty good. This card looks like it could be a great limited card. Tapping things down defensively or offensively. Gonna draw some cards. And the important thing to note here is how good of a stabilizer this is in a control deck, where you play this on turn 5, you tap and stun a thing. You also have a 4/5 in play. that's hard to attack into. So really, really holds the board down pretty well. Taps another thing, draws some cards. Can only attack once, but that's fine, honestly. So pretty cool card, great limited card. Looking forward to playing this one. Swallowed by Leviathan. 2 mana for an instant. Choose target spell. Surveil 2. Then they can counter if a spell as controller plays 1 for each card in your graveyard. So you can always just bin both cards, so it's at least 2. This is going to be a hard counter spell a lot of the time, and Surveiling 2 is pretty powerful. That being said, 2 mana for a counter spell is pretty sketchy. So, you know, I could say maybe fringe constructed card, probably not. And then in limited, it's just okay. You know, it's fine. That's being a slower format where counter spells are better. Sure, but Syncopate. Speaking of counter spells that are kind of 1 blue X counter spell, exile it. Unless they pay X. This card's been around forever. It is a pretty poor card, honestly. The kind of card's gotten worse over the years. It's just so mana inefficient. You were always trading down on mana. I'm sorry, not always trading down on mana, but it's just often very mana inefficient and gets worse as the game goes on. Yeah, I doubt this card will see any play. It's just not good enough these days. I've cast this card a lot, constructed, but yeah. And then limited, maybe. You know, it's all right if you're dying for a counter spell, but pretty unexciting. Thief's Knife. 2 mana for a job select. Creature gets +1/+1. As another creature does combat damage to a player, draw a card. It's also a rogue. So this is a 2/2 for 3 that can attack and draw some cards. What was that? Tempting Otter or something like that. It's an okay card. It's not bad. You know, it's an artifact for the artifact deck. Does put a little extra value on the equip here if you put on a flyer or something like that. But I think it's just a good limited card. If it was a little bigger, maybe a 2/3 or something like that, sure. But as a 2/2, it's okay. Travel the Overworld. This card, however, I like this one. This one's pretty nice. Affinity for towns. 7 mana for a draw 4 sorcery. However, there are a lot of towns in the set. All the dual ones are towns. More on those later. There are a lot of other cool towns too. I think this card has a decent chance to get constructed. Draw 4 cards for 2 mana is pretty awesome. And then in limited, this thing costs 4 mana or 3 mana, 5 mana. Pretty awesome place to be too. So 4 cards is a lot. I think this card would be better if it was like draw 3 cards for 6 mana. Because drawing 4 is almost excessive. But yeah, this card's really, really cool. I think this card is a sleeper. Definitely building a town deck for 10 new brews. Card's cool. Ultros, Obnoxious Octopus. 2 mana for a 2/1. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if 4 mana was spent to cast it, tap and stun a creature, which is very good. And if 8 mana was spent to cast it, put 8 counters on Ultros. Great limited card. 2/1, legendary, and then a bunch of upside. This is a card you want to play clearly in the 4 mana or higher non-creature spell deck, but pretty good otherwise. And then if you ever cast an 8-drop, awesome, you're in great shape. Great limited card, unplayable constructed, but sweet. Valkyrie Aerial Unit, 7 mana for a 5/4, affinity for artifacts, flyer, EDB Surveil 2. Just to pay out for your draft deck, your blue-white artifact deck. This thing costs 3 or 4 mana, you're really happy about it. That being said, it's an uncommon, a little hard to build around, but just a good solid card. If you're playing artifacts in limited, you're going to want this card. If you're not, you're not. Real simple. The Water Crystal. This is the blue crystal in the crystal cycle, which is a 4 mana artifact that has the medallion effect. All blue spells cost 1 less to cast. Has 2 effects also. If your opponent would mill 1 card, they mill that many cards plus 4 instead. That's a lot. And then 6 mana tap this. Each opponent mills cards for the number of cards in your hand, plus 4 more cards. This card does mill a lot of cards, but that upfront cost of 4 is a lot. That is a tough pill to swallow. I do think that mill can be powerful instead everything slow down a little bit, but I think this is tough. More of a commander card than anything else. In limited, if you're in a slow matchup, this card could be pretty cool, but yeah, it's not really good enough. Stula Rule. O'Doyle Rules.
I look like a jackass.
6 mana for a 3/5. Cat Druid. Beginning of your end step. blink a creature you control, and then if it's the first time this went off, do it again. Have another end step entirely. Weird ability. This is double end steps. Do with that as you will. Clearly a commander card. You know, build around double end steps, do your thing, yada, yada, yada. Constructed, 6 mana is way too much here. In limited, I mean, double blinks is pretty cool. You know, I'm sure there's some end step stuff as well. 3/5 is pretty small. So for the most part, this is a commander card. You know, probably cost it at 6 mana because, like, it can do some pretty crazy things in commander. But yeah, commander card, not much more. But so to recap blue, we've got Matoya, Archon Elder as our best in show. Astrologian's Planisphere is our sleeper card. Memories Returning is our trap card, unfortunately. And Dragoon's Wyvern is our Bombin Common. We got a lot more to go, folks. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, support the content. Black is coming up next. Anything you missed on YouTube, go watch all of them. Go hit the playlist. Go watch all the things. Make sure to check out the Bronze Mythic happening on the 15th. And, of course, check out 10 new brews as well on the 2nd. I'll see you there. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go.